Tom Clark's Main Event is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
This is Daddy Show. Step off.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to the program, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and this, with my cracking voice and all, for some weird reason, is Tom Clark's Main Event. Welcome to the new year, kids. What's up? How's it hanging? All that good stuff. 2021 and 2021. Damn, here we go. And I know what you're thinking. We made it. You know what I heard and read online yesterday? Oh, guys, we made it. We made it. It's where 2021. I'm thinking, we still got time. Don't be calling that stuff yet, man. I didn't celebrate crap until 12:01. And I said, now I've made it. Okay. Because you want to know why? 2021 was a mother of a year. And you don't push it, man. You don't push fate. You don't tempt the darkness. So I don't want anything snapping at me at the last minute. Do you know what I mean? So no, I didn't celebrate crap yesterday. 12:01, I breathed. Finally, sigh of relief. Now I can say I've made it 2021. And good news, if you're watching, you made it too. Congratulations. Aren't you happy it's over? So I don't know how great 2021 is going to be, but oh my God, fingers crossed for this one. Don't do two. That's bad luck or something. Let me tell you something. I got an old school Southern mom who knows all this stuff. If this itches, this, it means this. If this hurts, it means this, all this other stuff. Light. Woo, that's bright. So yeah, man, she knows all that stuff, and I've heard it for years. So like if your right hand itches, you're going to shake the hand of a stranger. If your left hand itches, you're going to get money. If your ears burn, someone's talking about you. How much time you got? I got a bunch. Superstition abounds in the Clark household. I don't have any idea why. So, yes, welcome to the show. This is episode number 207. What's up? Let's see who was first to the party here today. Russell, what's up, bro? Thanks for watching, man. Sandy in Germany, thanks for sending me the little thing on Instant Messenger. Much appreciated. Sugar Shane Odom in the house. What's up, bro? Glad you are hanging out. Rebecca, how are you? Alma, what's going on? Welcome back to the show. Chad in Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come. Everybody. Nothing? All right, cool. Maybe later. Sing-alongs at the end. I hope you're ready. So, Marie, how are you? Welcome to the show. Happy New Year to you as well. Barry, what's up? Victor, what's going on? Alma's got freezing rain and snow. Alma can have it. I'm not interested. Keep it. Don't want it. Carlos Martinez, what's going on? We're only going to say hello for a couple of seconds here more, and then we're going to get on with the show because we got a guest. Actually, we got two guests. Bonus episode. That's right, man. We've got two special guests here today, and we're going to get to it here in like 2 seconds. Eric, what's up? There you go, man. It says, hey, buddy, hope you have a great New Year's. I'm enjoying my family today. There you go. That's how you do it, man. Thank you, Timothy. Appreciate that. Brendan, what's going on? Let's see. Mark says, this is my WWE goal. I hope that they do this year. To make AJ Styles champion to elevate. Oh, man, you're hitting me with some major details right off the bat. We're going to get to some news later on in this podcast. But first, let's bring on our guest from the Untitled Wrestling Podcast. You know this man. He has hung out with us before. Please welcome Troy Grant and also his comrade and ours from the Untitled Wrestling Podcast, James Luft. Welcome, gentlemen, to the main event.
Hello.
Merry New Year.
Happy New Year.
How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. How are you guys today?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, good. Very
awesome.
good.
Refreshed, actually, considering it was New Year's celebrations yesterday. It was a rather subdued affair, considering circumstances and in comparison to previous years. So, yeah, I think this is the first New Year's I've woken up feeling pretty fresh, so I'm all right.
And with no major headache, and you can walk straight and all that good stuff. So that's
exactly good. All that, yeah.
my wife had to work today, and my son spent the night at a friend's house in the neighborhood. So it was just me in my office watching some wrestling and watching it turn 12:01. So there you go.
Yeah, man.
So,
Nice.
nothing major.
Mhm.
I wanted to have you guys on today, and of course, thank you for coming on. And kids, say hello to the guests. Make them feel welcome. James, you've never hung out with us here before, but we got the main event. The main event here is a family, and I'm sure you guys have the same situation with the Untitled Wrestling Podcast. And listen, kids, if you don't know about the UWP, well, now you know. So you need to check it out. We'll get you guys some plugs in during the show here and as we go off the air today. So let's see. Someone's telling me no volume and able to hear you. I can hear everyone. So
I can hear you.
Yeah. Will, it's your fault. It's all your fault, Will. You have bad tech, Will. Shame on you, Will. If you can't hear me, it doesn't matter, right? So Cindy says, hello, boys.
Hello.
Hello.
Jamel says, hey, guest. Well, there you go. That's what you got. So,
hey, viewer.
So let's go ahead and get to the meat of this, and we're all smiles, and we should be. As I said at the intro, man, 2021 sucked for a lot more reasons than just the COVID situation. We lost some great people last year, and we lost one the day after Christmas, which was worse. Mr. Brody Lee, we know, formerly Luke Harper in WWE, and most recently the leader of the Dark Order. I want to get your guys' take on this. And James, let's start with you, man.
Okay.
What's been your experience with Harper / Lee? Did you follow the guy? Were you a fan? I mean, what did you like his work, that kind of thing? And what's your thoughts coming off of what recently has happened over this past weekend?
Well, yeah, I loved his work. I was familiar with him like before he got signed to WWE. So like his work in Shikara and Ring of Honor. And obviously followed him throughout his career. Yeah, it's just really sad, isn't it? Like it was very unexpected. I think we were talking just before. It feels kind of like when we lost Eddie, because it was such a shocking and, as I say, out of nowhere thing to happen. But I think AEW did a really good job of kind of like memorializing him on the show this week. WWE put something out last night as well, which was really nice. And it feels like there's like just a real sense of camaraderie amongst like the entire wrestling community. Like you're seeing WWE guys retweeting AEW guys and vice versa. And it doesn't feel like there's as much like tribalism in wrestling anymore, which is quite a nice thing.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I know it's an odd comparison, but it what you were describing kind of sound like the immediate feeling in this country after 9/11, where it was we all band together, we all get past our differences, let's focus on the bigger picture. I mean, fast forward X number of years later, and it's every man for himself again, unfortunately, and for a lot of people, right? But yeah, I like the way you put that. It's that sense of community versus one company over another. Troy, let me throw the same question to you in regards to Brody, formerly known as Luke Harper. How long did you follow the guy's career before he even got to WWE? Did you know him before that time?
No. Unlike Jay, I only knew of him in NXT, first of all, with the Wyatt family there. And then obviously when they came up to the main roster. We did an episode on our podcast a while back about kind of favorite factions and tag teams. And I've always said that the Wyatt family are hands down one of my favorite, if not my favorite faction in recent memory. Bray obviously captivating as anything, but the standout for me was always Harper. Just the way he carried himself, his whole character and gimmick and stuff. And then later down the line started to hear kind of what sort of a guy he was outside of the ring and among his kind of colleagues and co-workers and stuff like that. And just a really humble, down-to-earth guy. From everything that I'd sort of heard and read. And it's like you've both just said, the last kind of person that passed away within the kind of wrestling community industry rather, that this felt like was Eddie. And I remember reading it and for a moment kind of didn't think it was real and just genuine shock and was just quiet the entire day. And my girlfriend kept asking me, "Are you okay? What's up? What's up?" And I was just like, I just keep thinking about it. Like I've never met the guy. I was never likely to meet him, but it was just, I think because you saw just how much of an outpour of emotion and support and messages of condolences and stories and this, that, and the other that you heard from everyone, not just WWE, not just AEW, but Ring of Honor and New Japan and every other indie promotion across the planet. Like not a bad word to say about him, and you realize that just how much of an impact he had. So it's massive. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah, it's what a special guy, man. And I think almost from the jump, from the minute he got to NXT, and especially when the Wyatt family debuted on the main roster on Raw, I think everybody, because it didn't take long, saw the way he moved and the way, not just his look, but the way he moved, the way he worked, and said, okay, wow. I mean, like, he was pegged very early as one of those guys that, like, keep your eye on this guy. He's going to go places because, you know, we always talk as fans about, you know, guys like Samoa Joe. How does he get up off how does he get up off the mat? How does he move like that? And you know, Keith Lee and guys like that who are just, how does he do that? Dijakovic is another one, but Brody never, I mean, Brody did work like a big man, but he didn't have to, like, and, I don't know if I'd put Brody King in the same comparison, because Brody King does a lot of lucha stuff, amazing for the guy that size. But, you know, Brody Lee was some of his moveset was off-putting because you didn't expect a guy that size. I mean, of course, they're going to inflate the height and the weight because that's what they do in the business. But I think he was a legit 6'5", maybe 6'6".
Easily.
For sake of TV, he's 7 foot and 300 pounds, but really he's 6'5" and 270, right? So I remember them billing Barry Windham for years at 250 pounds, and I thought, come on, man. Like,
who are you kidding?
Yeah, right. I'm talking about, like, back when Barry was as thin as Kendall, and Barry's like a straight up and down. I'm like, he's 200 if he's 215, maybe. You know what I mean?
Wet through.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I was telling you guys before we went on mic today that I did an episode of the 6M podcast. New episodes drop every Tuesday, kids. Shameless plug time. There you go. And last night we covered the Wyatt family, and one of the things we talked about was how I don't know if the Wyatt family would have worked without Harper and Rowan in the mix. That Bray still would have been awesome, and had it been any two other guys, it probably would have been okay. But if for nothing else, Luke Harper / Brody Lee, those eyes, man, that expression, I mean, I got cold chills right now thinking about just when he puts his face in the camera during those first promos for the Wyatt family. You're like, oh my God. Like,
who's this guy?
Yeah. So Jay, I'll ask you, how important is it that he had such a presence? He wasn't just a stereotypical big guy throwing the big leg drop and the big boot, but he had that aura around him from the jump.
Well, it adds to, like, the complete package, doesn't it? Like, you look at guys like Undertaker, and we know he can wrestle, but with that presence, it kind of, like, intensifies it all and elevates it. And I think that's the same thing with Brody. Like, he had a real presence, and it didn't matter what he was doing, whether he was doing Big Rig on the Indies, whether he was a cult member in WWE or a Bludgeon Brother later on, or whether he was the leader of the Dark Order in AEW. Everything he kind of, like, had, like, a really imposing presence to him, and it really added to everything he did. And as you say about his eyes, like, that's the perfect, like, sum up as well. Like, he looked like an absolute lunatic, like, with some of the stuff he was doing, and but he could convey, like, pretty much anything, like, in the ring. It was really, really, really underrated guy.
He didn't have to say much either. It's not like he was frequent on the microphone getting stuff across. I mean, granted, for the majority of the time in the Wyatt family, Bray did all of the talking. But even kind of when he wasn't as associated and he went off on that kind of singles run briefly and won the IC title, didn't need to say much. But just his emotion, just his eyes, we said that already, conveyed so much and got so much across.
Yeah, it really did. And the combination of he and Rowan together, and I don't know how much... I don't think Eric gets enough credit. He wasn't the talker that Brody was. At least we don't think he was, because he didn't really get much of a chance to talk ever. But man, he was another guy that, and I rewatched last night their debut on Raw, and when they threw Kane up against the steps, and Brody is they're both heading toward him, and Brody pushes Eric out of the way, and this look on his face again, I got cold chills, and I'm thinking, dude, if he's coming at me like that, number one, I'm probably gonna relieve myself, all bodily functions, and number two, I'm screaming for mom, okay, because God get me out of here. But man, no wonder that, and dude, you can hear a pin drop during that attack because the fans were like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, it helped that they were new faces, but it also helped because Brody had that, like,
just vacant, like,
yes,
glaze, but vacant, but at the same time, absolutely, like, just unbelievable.
Yeah, and that notion that Bray had gotten into their heads and brainwashed them, and they were following him because he was spitting some kind of truth that was getting into them from a psychological standpoint. I mean, it's good stuff. And there was a comment on here. Let's see. Somebody popped up because one of the things there we go. Sandy in Germany. What's up, Sandy? One of Brody's Brody's key thing on Twitter was Sunday. You know what that means? And the next day, it's Monday. You know what that means? And I don't know I can't remember if I just saw that or if someone pointed it out to me, but I may have just been scrolling and I said, oh, wonder what that means. And then a few days later, I'm like, okay. And then I go to his page. I'm like, holy God, what's he doing? Like, and I showed that to people and they're like, what's that mean? I'm like, I don't know, but it's awesome. Cause like just dark, mysterious kind of thing.
Didn't it come off the back of, I'm sure, Jay, you were explaining this to me today because I asked and I was like, why is everyone saying it? I've not heard it before. The only thing I knew and associated him with was stuff he'd said like on social media is when he always used to put stuff to Larry. And I was like, well, who's Larry? And I think Larry was one of the trainers.
Larry Heck, one of the trainers in WWE, said he needs to explain his social media better. So on Instagram, he'd address everything to Larry.
That's nice. That I think it just added another dimension to him. And on the flip side of this whole conversation is the fact that we know he was a family man, has two sons, or does he have two sons and a daughter? I'm going to say he has two sons.
Two sons.
Brody
and Nolan.
Brody and Nolan, that's right. So Rebecca's asking us right now, do you think they will keep the Dark Order and maybe Eric Redbeard Rowan, the new leader? Let me jump in real quick, Rebecca. In my opinion, you turn them face and you do it right now. And you feud them with the inner circle, and that's how you roll with it. And to me, it makes the most sense. I don't put anybody in charge. I just let them function as a group and let them run it as a collective. I think it's too soon. What do you guys think about that?
Too soon, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I would say, like you say, Brody did such a good job of establishing them when you consider a year ago they were a laughing stock, and you go back to the whole fake punches thing, and they were a laughing stock. And to look where they are now, and I know we were talking about it the other day, myself, Jay, and a couple of the other guys on the podcast, is that a year ago, I couldn't name you one member of the Dark Order. Now everyone knows each other's names, and a huge part of that is due to the work and efforts that Brody has put in. So I think putting someone in as a leader straight from the off and trying to kind of tick that box and fill that gap straight away would be unjust to the work that he's done up until now. And I think it's kind of owed to them to be able to kind of go off, not on their own, but go out and show what they can do as they are at the moment, and not be in a hurry to have a leader. Like, leave it 6 months, leave it a year, build and build and build. Like, they're at a point now where everyone knows who they are anyway. They're all recognized. They're taken seriously. So don't be in a hurry to fill that gap, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jay?
I think the way it was kind of structured was Evil Uno was like the de facto number 2 anyway, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So I think he'll be like the unofficial leader. They did have Silver kind of doing a bit of a leadership role. I don't think they'll necessarily have a leader. I do think we're probably going to get Hangman affiliated with them for a little bit to kind of further that storyline. And they were already like teasing it on like BTE and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't see them getting booed anytime soon, especially after the show where they did on Wednesday night. It was too it was too raw. It was too
Yeah.
It was just the most babyface thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, firing up on Eddie Kingston.
I think it would almost come across as insensitive to put in a new leader, or even have that discussion this soon on this while it's still so raw.
It's like, just imagine if it's kind of a huge comparison, but just imagine if Hogan had passed away at the height of the NWO, or Flair had passed away at the height of the Horsemen. It's like, well, no, we're done. We can't, and
you don't replace someone like that.
Yeah,
not straight away.
Right. And I made the comparison last night, like to Led Zeppelin, where after John Bonham died, it was like they were hounded for years. What are you going to do now? It's like, we're done. The band's over. Well, we lost our brother. We can't move forward now. And of course, years later, they performed with Jason Bonham, and it was awesome. But, that's after years and years and years of healing and, letting life do its thing, let time do its thing. This is not the same comparison, obviously. I mean, these are storylines that have to continue being written and continue to push forward, to push the company forward. But I think if any company in this business has proven that they seem to have their heads screwed on straight behind the scenes, it's AEW. I mean, I think they've proven that.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and touch on this, because I definitely want to get you guys input on the AEW tribute show from Wednesday night. And Troy, you just watched this like today, maybe an hour ago. What's coming right off of that? What's your fresh, raw thoughts of it?
That's how you do a tribute show. Top to bottom, it was fantastic. A really good mix of matches and promos, vignette kind of video packages and tributes and stuff like that. It was cool that every match featured a member of the Dark Order, and it really gave them a chance to kind of show what they can do when they wouldn't normally be able to. And it felt like everyone kind of went into an extra gear. And it all just felt very real and very raw and very emotional. I don't watch AEW anywhere near as much as Jay and so many other guys that I podcast with. But just from this one episode, it instantly came across that this is a company that really cares and that really, really want to put their all into making sure this guy is remembered well. And it was excellent. Ups and downs are very, very emotional. But yeah, just a really, really fitting tribute. Really, 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 really good.
What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, it was perfect. It was the perfect tribute show. Perfect tribute to him. The fact that he came in like to sort of blur the lines of like reality and storyline. Obviously, his thing was to come in and help the Dark Order get wins, and they all won on that. It was like the ultimate tribute to him. The thing with the TNT belt at the end was fantastic. The video package they put together at the end was incredible. And also, like as Troy said, it really like showed what the Dark Order guys can do. Like tribute show or not, they all got the chance to kind of like thrive there. And there's guys in the Dark Order like Stu Grayson, who I've said for like a long time on our podcast, like he's so good and he's so like underused, and to get to see them like all show what they're capable of, it was just really cool.
And I think one of the surprise hits out of this whole thing, especially on BTE and now translating to the screen, is John Silver. Like,
yes,
he's comic relief because he's so funny, but like he reminds me of Daniel Bryan as a heel with Kane, when he's just that undersized, just always got that expression, always mad, always undervalued. I love him. I think that's how you keep this light moving forward. I think you just continue the comedy bits, and you know what? Put some of the BT stuff on TV, for God's sake. Like, don't just make it YouTube exclusive. I'm not saying that hurts anything if you keep it YouTube exclusive, but for anybody tuning into Dynamite, may not have known what the papers meant when they were hitting each other with papers. Like, they wouldn't have any idea. So, one of the things on the tribute show that I have to touch on is Lance Archer. I freaking love, my God, freaking Lance Archer. I mean, if you squint your eyes at him in just the right light, that God bless it, he looks just like Luke Harper, man. It's crazy.
For a moment, it really threw me off when he came out in the vest and jeans, and I double took, and I was like, obviously it's not him. I was like, well, who's that then? Because it looks just like him. Like, I don't know if I was looking at my phone at the time or took a sip of my drink and looked up and was like, hang on a minute. It's so good. So good.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of this show. The first half, my wife was in the room, and she used to watch pro wrestling quite a bit with me, and now she's kind of half and half. But I popped so many times.
Yeah.
And I teared up. Good God, I cried so much during this show, man. And when Lance came out, Waterworks, and I'm like, oh my God. And she's like, what? And I said, look how he's dressed. I mean, I don't think the fact that these guys have relationships behind the scenes, they travel the roads together, believe me when I tell you, as somebody who works in a pro wrestling company, have been in locker rooms for years, there is a brotherhood there. And it's the Gallows and Anderson joke about the good brother thing. Everybody's brother. And it just happens. It becomes part of your vernacular. You don't even know you're doing it half the time. But I don't know that I call anyone brother in real life as much as I do when I'm talking to wrestlers, because it's just so ingrained in you. But man, look at a guy like Lance Archer, who, much like Brody, in my opinion, was undervalued for a long time. He goes to New Japan, he gets over like a bullet, and you're like, I didn't know he was capable of doing this. And now he's got a great spot in AEW. I mean, it's kind of not the same path, but in my opinion, a similar path to what Brody had. And one of the sad parts of this story, obviously, is that Brody got a taste of what he could have been in AEW. When he got elevated after getting there, what did you guys think of that? Did you think, yes, it's about time?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like Arn Anderson said that he thought Brody Lee was one of the best wrestlers he'd ever seen. So that speaks volumes that Arn saying that. I think, yeah, he belonged like to be in that spotlight. And even when he had the TNT title for, like, what was it, like 6 weeks? He really made that title feel more important than it already was, and did a really good job of elevating that. And again, that speaks volumes to how good he was.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jamel says Eddie Kingston had the best tribute of the night, and that is
Eddie Kingston. What are you doing to me, man?
Yeah, he wears his heart on his sleeve, man, and he's one of those guys that can just cry, and it's because he feels this. It's not just a job. It is his.
That's his life. It's
his life. Yeah,
everything to that man.
Yeah. I mean, the bits where we got to hear from the talent it put it over the top, and it really meant a lot, because you could tell it means a lot to them. And you know, having Brody's kids there, and Shane right now is talking about Rowan. Talk to me about Eric Rowan with that sign, man.
Big red beard. That as soon as that came up, man, someone was cutting onions in the room, because
yeah, I had a big pile of onions next to the couch to chop while I was watching that show.
Yeah.
And Rowan couldn't stop crying, and he was just, I mean, you know, it meant a lot to him. And I don't know how any of this worked behind the scenes, but I would be shocked if the moment they decided to plan the show, if whether it was Cody or Tony or somebody said, get him on the phone right now, we need him here.
Oh, I mean, yeah. One of the first people on the phone. Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know. We've got some folks in the chat talking about, you know, how WWE didn't do enough. And I kind of agree with that. But at the same time, I kind of wonder, you know, out of respect to the AEW show, which I don't know if there's such a word when it comes to that company against AEW, but
or any company.
Yeah. Was there a level of respect, do you think, on WWE's part, where they said, look, we'll put the blurb up and we'll let the guys talk, and if they want to wear armbands, that's fine, but we know that AEW is going to take care of this and they're going to do the right thing for John. So maybe, do you think that discussion was had behind the scenes at some point?
Possibly. I mean, I wasn't as upset or peeved as clearly quite a few other people on the internet were within the wrestling community. I saw one person argue and say, well, did AEW do the same sort of tribute when Road Warrior died, or when this person died, or that person died. It's like, well, no, they didn't. It's like, well, because they're not part of their company. Like, if WWE came out and did exactly the same sort of tribute, people would have gone, well, he doesn't even wrestle for you anymore. Like, leave it to the people that he does wrestle for. Mm-hmm. So I get the argument. WWE maybe could have done a little bit more, but it was nice to see 4, 5, 6 of the guys and gals on the roster doing tribute, but subtle tributes, like putting the yeah into their promos, and, you know, this, that, and the other, and Xavier Woods with the armband and stuff like that. There were some subtle things in there, and they were nice. I don't think they needed to be really on the nose, which, by the sounds of it, a lot of people were hoping and expecting them to be, and putting it right out there in your face. But the commentary team made a few, like, you know, comments and stuff like that. People put it into their promos. Like, I thought it was nice. It was subtle. It maybe could have been a bit more, but then where's the line? Because people could have easily turned around and said, oh, you've done too much. He's an AEW guy. You don't need to be going as over the top. Why have you done this? But then they go the other way and people say, well, you didn't do enough. So where's the line? What's acceptable?
What do you think, Jay? Do you think it was just enough, or they could have done more?
I think they could have done more on the night, but to be fair, as you said about, like, maybe they were waiting, that is a possibility. They recorded some content on Monday and they released it on Thursday night, and then I believe they're going to be recording some more stuff tonight on SmackDown and then releasing that accordingly as well. So obviously they've heard the criticism and they're doing something about it to honor them. But yeah, I mean, it's that thing, isn't it? Like, no one's ever going to be satisfied. Like,
no.
I saw some people saying, oh yeah, they've not done enough, and then I've seen other people saying, oh well, no, they've done just enough. It's fine. It's not. And everyone's always going to argue about it, aren't they? That no one's ever going to be like 100% happy about it. I think that all the tributes all together have been really nice. As I say, it feels like everyone's kind of like coming together as opposed to like fighting each other for once. Yeah. So that's always good.
Brian with an interesting take. He says, I wouldn't be surprised if WWE and AEW talked about it. Hey, look, there's a lot of people in those companies backstage who are never on camera. I mean, it could have, and I'm just postulating, I don't know either. But
there's conversations somewhere that have happened, sure.
It could have been Road Dogg texting Dean Malenko, or it could have been anything.
Exactly.
Where it was like, hey, man, we're going to do something. I'm just giving you a heads up. And it's like, okay, I'll let everybody know, that kind of thing. So,
yeah.
I mean, we always like to, and we just talked about the brotherhood that exists and the sisterhood that exists in the business. But, you know, just because they're producers backstage, they're still part of the family. So they were feeling this too. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it could have been something as simple as an email or a quick phone call. Now, do we think Tony called Vince? No. But the beauty of this stuff is that we don't really know. And I like that element of mystery about this, because everybody's trying to be first to the punch on, well, guess what I know? And I'm like, nah, guess what you think you know. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I do think it was a nice touch with, go ahead.
Yeah. There isn't much illusion left in wrestling anymore. And where you can recoup some of that and where you can still keep some of it is what keeps you kind of intrigued and still watching. And we don't know what's been said backstage. We don't know what phone calls are made, but it's probably for the best that we don't, and just accept it as it is and just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah. And just imagine if the roles were a little reversed, so to speak, and someone were trying to pry into your family about a passing of someone in your family and trying, well, how did it happen? Whatever. And you're like, dude, this is none of your business. And what do you care how we found out and who's doing what for them? This is our family. So, I mean, it's a bit different because they allow us into their world and they allow us to become part of it. And that's great. But at the end of the day, they're just real people struggling and suffering and feeling this like everybody else is. So I do think it was a nice touch that they, like Jay mentioned about putting the Dark Order over in every match. I thought that was cool. Let me get your guys' take on Brody being in the front row with that mask on. That kid, I mean, wow. Putting a smile on that kid's face. MJF, heel to the death. Okay,
Yeah.
Oh,
heel to the end.
even on Twitter
And
afterwards,
even on
like, "F that
Twitter,
kid."
he said, F that kid. And I'm like, yes.
Even Jericho got on it at one point with commentary. The camera panned round to him, and they were just like, "Oh, he's still holding the kendo stick." And Jericho's like, "Oh, I think it's got some of MJF's hair on it." He's just like, "That kid's a bad seed already."
And
To be fair, like they could feasibly put him as like leader of the Dark Order.
Yeah.
It's birthright, isn't it?
He supposedly signed a contract already.
Yeah.
And if he's determined to do this for a living, and I'm going to tell you something, and you guys know this, you've been young men before. If you're determined to do something, there's not much going to be able to stop you. So if this kid is determined to be in the business, they can educate him all day and say, "Oh, son, you need to go to college." And listen, if he's determined, I mean, life can happen and can change his mind at any moment. But if he stays the course, I mean, he's what? How old did they say he was now? How 8? Dude, in 10 years, we could be talking about his debut match. We don't know.
Walking in with the original TNT championship and telling people he's the legitimate champion.
Man. That's great. That's the comic book fan in me coming out and trying to predict,
same.
future storylines and stuff. I want to touch on this too, and we could talk about the tribute show all day because it was fantastic. I want to talk a bit about first. Let's talk a little bit about him as Harper. We've touched a little bit on it so far, but in terms of his work as Harper, that's where I don't want to say cut his teeth, but that's where he got over on a national platform. He had a moment of after the Wyatt family thing fell through and he was turning face and Randy got involved and you're like, they're going to do something with Harper. Wow. And then they did nothing with Harper. And you're like, what?
Oh.
I mean, we're armchair booking here, guys, but what could have been for Luke Harper had the things played out differently in WWE?
Jay, do you want to go on this one?
Yeah, I think he would have been kind of like the role we sort of see like someone like Timothy Thatcher in NXT and now, where he's around like the top of the card. He's feuding with top guys. He never quite gets it. Like he'd be quite like a good like big guy sort of foil for a babyface champion to face.
Incredible threat.
Similar to how he was like when he was first brought into AEW, he was like just a credible threat to like guys like Cody and Moxley. So yeah, I could see that. I mean, as we've said already, he was such a good wrestler. Like, and for a big guy especially, he moved so quick. He could have just as easily been a big babyface as well. But
same question for you, Troy.
Yeah, I agree. In AEW, I've definitely seen him as a world champion. In WWE, I don't know because we see how big guys get treated. Like, oh, he's a big guy and he's athletic. No, ground him. And so I'm not sure we would have really gotten to see a true potential. But I agree with Jay having him as that constant threat to the guy at the top. Not necessarily being the guy at the top wherever making it, but always being there and being that kind of thorn in the side and causing issues. That or just being like a solid upper mid card, like a long reign with that IC championship when he won it off Ziggler. But yeah, I'd have loved to have seen him, get a real push and to really flesh him out a bit as a character, because we know, obviously, seeing his work in AEW, how charismatic and good at talking and stuff he was. And we didn't necessarily see that as Luke Harper in WWE because Bray was the mouthpiece there. But there were moments, like you said, where there was that whole feud of Randy and they're like, are they going to turn him? Are they going to do this? And a lot of people were kind of clinging on to that and we never quite got it. And I think that would have been really, really awesome to see.
James, I didn't mean to cut you off, man.
That's all right.
So let me throw it back to you on this. Could you have envisioned Luke Harper as, if they weren't willing to do WWE Championship, what if they had continued with him? What about Universal Champion? Would that have been something that would have fit him?
Possibly.
Could he have gotten to that level?
To be honest, when Troy was talking then, one thing that kind of sprung to my mind was possibly go back to NXT and win that. because
Be the big monster heel down there.
yeah, because they are more kind of like open to different like styles as champion, whereas like WWE they have like kind of like a set like thing in mind for each like
Blueprint
world
almost.
champion of what they want. NXT, look at like their like sort of Hall of Champions. They've got so many different like styles and different like wrestlers. So that I could see him like possibly going back to NXT. I know when he had that match with Dijakovic on Worlds Collide too.
Oh gosh, yeah.
There was like talk, oh my god, bring it back to NXT, and whether he had that conversation as well, maybe. So I would have been very open to that.
Mm.
You know, we've been hearing since we're kids. If you've watched that as long as I have, and you may have, we've been hearing for years and years and years. Vince loves the big guys. He loves them. They're what he wants. That's if you got to be 6'6" and 300. Oh my God, he'll love you. But then you look at Brody and you're like, really? Because he wasn't. And I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to diss anybody. But he wasn't a typical slow big man that they've put titles on before. This guy was athletic. He had the persona. He had the face. He had the mystique. He was extremely intelligent about how the business works and what he knew how to get himself over. He knew how to get his opponents over in matches, knew how to work a match, knew how to call a match. But they did nothing. And I'm like, does he really love the big man, or it's as the wind blows for this guy? How did Brody slip? Now, how do we even know the answer to this? But how does he slip through the cracks in terms of, well, hey, pal, this is what Vince really wants? Really? Come on.
Well, there was that story that Vince wanted them to do a Southern accent in the Wyatt family, and because he's from New York, he was like, well, I can't do that. And
definitely not.
I mean, it's not like Vince McMahon to hold a grudge about something, is it?
Never.
So,
what gives you that idea?
Yeah. That's the only thing I could put it down to.
I agree with that. And it's almost like, and you know, we hear stories like, and it's a comparison to Keith Lee. It's like, well, they sent Keith Lee back and they want him to work the main event style. And then we talked about it 2 weeks ago on the show, and people on the show were talking about, yeah, but didn't they already know what they had? And I'm like, yeah, they knew. Vince didn't know. So like,
Vince doesn't watch NXT. Everyone knows
exactly. That. And so did Vince even know that Brody's from Rochester?
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he just look at him. He's a big hillbilly, pal. All right.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's some kayfabe going on here, Vince. I don't know. It's real easy to mention Vince by his first name and think that we've got all the answers because we've all read and heard and seen other guys do that for years. But I just find it entertaining that what seems to be, and not now because he's gone, but at the time he was there, his peers, the fans, people around him, people in upper management said, this guy's got it. And they did nothing with him. It's mind-boggling to me.
Really is.
So
he wasn't the first, and unfortunately won't be the last.
Yeah.
Just of people just being misused, or in some cases not used at all, when you know just how capable they are.
Yeah.
And it brings me to this, and I threw up the Brody first, and now Harper versus Brody. Talk about, two really talented guys, two really great characters and personas, but Luke Harper is always just below the surface, simmering. He's the pot on the stove that's simmering. Brody Lee's boiling over because he broke through. He's out. And it's that scene in The Hard Day's Night when they finally get out of the building. Ringo goes, "We're out," and they go running down the steps. I mean, Brody got out, and he's like, now I can do this, and I can have fun, and I can laugh, and this is great. And man, it's like night and day with one character versus another, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. He really shown his like capabilities with like promo work in AEW, I thought. Especially like that promo he cut when he challenged Cody to the dog collar match. That was like one of my favorite promos of the year. It was really good.
It's good stuff. And all the BTE segments where he's smacking all the guys upside the head with the papers, and John Silver's talking about he never broke character, but when he was off camera, you could hear him laughing, and they had to yell cut and go to the next take because he kept screwing them up. And I mean, it just and how do you know, because you don't know him personally, but it just seemed like he was just, can I do this? Is this okay? And like, yeah, let's do this. Let's have fun. What do you want to do? And I remember CM Punk saying at one point that he was asked, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, I don't think they ever ask anybody that. So when they asked me, I told them. So, just the idea that in AEW you have a chance to, now, of course,
creative freedom.
Yes. I mean, if you go too far off the rails, if you're too much Jim Carrey undirected or not unsupervised, they're going to say, okay, time out, get him back. You got to breathe, Jim. Breathe, Jim. Yeah. But I mean, there'll be limits to this, obviously, but man, it just, I would be shocked if anybody had their hands on Brody in terms of creatively so much that he couldn't move. I mean, it just feels like he had fun. I mean, and I'm so glad he got to do that.
Yeah.
And I just wish it could have continued.
Absolutely.
And we've kind of already touched on this, but what do you think for Dark Order moving forward? Is this, I don't know how you ever kill this faction. I don't know if you can. I think they seem determined to carry on Brody's legacy. If you could ask Brody right now, Brody would probably say, hey, do whatever you got to do. It's fine, But what do you do with, like, let's say you're doing it right now, Jay, okay? What do you do personally with the Dark Order moving forward? Do you let it simmer for a bit? Do you let it sit for a while and then come back to it? Or do you start making plans now? What do you do?
I think I'd start making plans now. I think as we touched on earlier, like they're never going to get booed anytime soon, are they? They're baby faces now. They've turned them face. What I'd do with them, though, I mean, you've got John Silver. He's like the kind of like the star of the group, isn't he? He's the one that like everyone's sort of like saying is really good. I guess give him a push. That being said, like I say this all the time on our AEW podcast, like since probably last year, I've wanted to do Uno and Grayson to be the tag champs. So give them the tag champs. That's just like purely selfish on my part, though. But yeah, I mean, they've been like teasing the Hangman thing, so I guess they're probably going to do something with that. But yeah, just wait and see, I guess.
What do you think, Troy?
I touched on it earlier. I think for me, there shouldn't be any, like I said, there shouldn't be any rush to replace Brody or be finding a leader. I think they're established enough now as a faction. People take them seriously. They're loved by people. Like you say, they're clearly like a babyface faction now. Let them go off and sort of spread their wings for a bit and really just continue to build on the momentum that they've got. And in time, start to flesh out a story for a new leader, but not be in a hurry to do it, because it almost does in my opinion, almost a sort of disjustice to what has been built up for them already over the last few months or whatever. But something like the tag team championships would be a good way to kind of cement them a bit more. And like you say, John Silver is the kind of the breakout from that group as well. Get him on TV more, get his character across more. A lot of people don't necessarily watch BTE. So, the stuff that he does on there, allow a bit of that to kind of bleed through into Dynamite, and people start to really build up a love for that character.
I couldn't agree with you more. Victor with an interesting take. WWE didn't waste his talent. They missed out on his talent. They definitely missed out on it. And they used him where they thought, where Vince wanted him to be used. Call it for what it is. That's how he was used. And no more, no less, more than likely, because nothing goes on in that company without his approval. So I don't know if I can say they didn't waste him. And he had no hurt feelings. He had no axe to grind. He said he wasn't unhappy when he left. He just wanted to he felt like he could do more, and they weren't letting him do it. So he moved on. And I don't think I ever heard him do a shoot on the company or anything crazy negative. He was just, hey, I just want to do something else. Sugar Shane with, I love the suits, man. Brody custom made suit.
Oh,
yeah.
those
Man.
suits.
Oh yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Best dressed guy in the business. I mean, Flair should have been proud of that. That was awesome.
Yeah. The closest I've seen to suits like that are grizzled young veterans in NXT.
Yeah.
They are dapper. I know Jay's going to be biased being a fellow Scouse.
Yeah. Zach Gibson got some good suit game.
Oh, yeah. Brian with an interesting take here. They're going to have the Dark Order start falling apart from within by arguing over who should be in charge. Then have Sting come in with the what would Brody say thing and become their leader and mentor. I don't hate that.
Yeah.
I mean, and Sting not come in swinging a bat, but Sting come in like, look what
Calm
you're
down.
doing. Yeah,
What are you
take
doing
it
now?
easy.
Yeah.
I mean, look what you're doing to each other and what the kinds of things you're saying. I mean, Brody wouldn't want this. What are you doing? I mean, that would, and then you don't have to put Sting in as a leader, but have that voice of reason.
Have him go in and band them back together.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's wide open now. They can touch it now, or they can touch it a year from now. It's and I don't think they'll be in a hurry. And I think judging from what we've seen in the past, and look, I've said this for a year now. I give this company the benefit of the doubt because they've very rarely ever let me down as a fan. So they get the benefit of the doubt. WWE, it's hard for me to give them benefit of the doubt because as a fan, I've been let down a whole bunch.
Have my fingers burnt way too many times.
Right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's fair. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm gonna. We didn't touch on any real kind of news this week. I don't really care to talk about ratings. I don't really care about all that right now. Let's take this thing home today with some open floor, and this is where the folks can chime in. If you guys have anything you want to discuss that's happened this week, anything that's happened on SmackDown, Raw, NXT, or the AEW Tribute Show, anything you'd like to talk about. Cherie hits us with, what's your thoughts about Eric Rowan? I don't know what happens for him moving forward. Eric Redbeard in AEW, he looks to be in great shape. He's took care of himself.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see him there. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Definitely.
Wouldn't go on, Jay. No, you're good.
Wasn't he doing some work with the United Wrestling Network? So sort of NWA. So that will obviously open the door to get him to AEW. To be honest, with that pitch with Sting, just switch out with Rowan because he was Brody's friend.
Very true.
So just have Rowan come in and unite the Dark Order.
Yeah.
And he could be the one to do it. And God, that's a great idea. Why not just put him as the voice of reason instead of Sting? That's a good move. I'd love to see him land on his feet with that company. Mark hit us with this when we went on the air today. So fine, Mark, we'll talk about it. Make
Okay,
AJ
Mark.
champion. Yeah, okay, Mark. Jeez. To elevate younger talent, he can work anybody. Mark, a lot of that is AJ's call, and a lot of it is not. We know that the veterans, the veteran top guys in that company do get to pick their opponents. Taker did it for years. I mean, not a lot of people, in my opinion, are going to tell AJ no. So if AJ says, hey, I want to work with Ricochet, let's do something. I don't think they're going to tell him no. But look, AJ can put on the best match you've ever seen. What's the old line with a broom, right? And make the broom look 5-star. And that's great. But he can't book the guy after. So like, we can talk all day about, well, pal, we're going to let AJ elevate this guy and he's all right. Yeah, but then it's out of AJ's hands moving forward. So again, it goes back to trust. Do you trust WWE? Give me a name. Do you guys have a name that you'd put with AJ right now that you're like, AJ can do something for this kid?
Mustafa Ali.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
again, as you say, like look at Ricochet in 2019 when he had that like feud with AJ, and then afterwards just got booked like straight back down.
Mm-hmm.
So
there was talk for a little bit that Ricochet was going to get some kind of push because he had the match against Brock in Saudi, didn't he? And apparently Heyman was quite hot on him, and he was going to go into something there, and then just got squashed within a minute or so, and that was it.
Yeah,
I mean,
for Ali,
I mean, in my opinion, he's this whole retribution thing's got to go. I'm sorry. It's if and this goes back to the podcast I recorded last night. We were talking about it, and we both said, look, if they're going to be anti-company, anti-WWE, they're renegades, then they don't have a stylized logo, they don't have entrance music, they don't get signed, they don't get drafted, they don't have Twitter accounts that are WWE sponsored. What are we doing here? So I think
the best thing about Retribution at the moment.
Oh, I got to hear this.
Is their Twitter accounts. T-Bar's Twitter account is the best thing about them.
T-Bar, my God. I can't get past the names, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's something else, isn't it?
At least they gave Ali Mustafa back, thank God.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mark says Riddle, Ricochet, Damian Priest. So I interviewed Priest when he was Punishment Martinez, and he's that the promos he cuts, that's him. Like he was straightforward, no bones. We weren't cracking jokes during that interview, man. He's a straightforward guy. And every time I hear anybody talk about, well, you can't wait to get the NXT guy to the main roster, I'm thinking, I can wait. I'll wait. I'm good.
Yeah.
Leave him.
We were saying this the other day. There's a few people now. Well, there's a lot of people in NXT, but there's a few people there where you know that they're like main roster worthy talent and pay-per-view headlining talent, WrestleMania headlining talent. As much as they are, you're like, please God, don't pull them up to main roster. We've seen what's happened with people where they've been treated like absolute champions and deservedly so in NXT. And as soon as they come up, and it's like, I've forgotten what this guy or gal was all about. They've been wasted. And like you say, with Damian Priest, it's like, no, I'm more than happy if he stays in NXT for another year, 2 years, because we know what happens with these call-ups. They're not call-ups. They're the third brand. It's a call across.
Oh, well done. Yeah. Well done. Timothy with an AEW question. How about John Silver versus Darby Allin for the TNT title? Yes or no? Jay, what do you think?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I'd love
fun
that
match. I just imagine John being creeped out by how weird Darby is and just those expressions he gets, and I think that would be great, man.
I'd want him to do what he did on BT and come out with the face paint on.
That'd be great. Yeah, and he's got to get it wrong. He's got to get it wrong somehow.
Yeah.
Like he does something, and it's like, that's not what Darby does. What are you talking about? That kind of character is like, I just call him like a jacked up Barney Fife, where he's like, you know what I mean? Where he's neurotic, he's insecure, but he's got a Napoleon complex, and so good. Shane says, what about Randy Orton going to burn Alexa Bliss? I'm out. I got nothing. So go ahead. Out.
I didn't even know Raw had ended when it happened.
Yeah, it was a bit of an abrupt ending.
Like,
Wasn't it?
what's happening?
Like, I don't know. I know a lot of people haven't liked this, and they found it a bit hokey. Like the not child in me, but the kind of the geek in me is just like, well, I'm still intrigued with this. There's still plenty of directions they can go in with The Fiend and with Bray. And Alexa's doing some really, really good work in that character at the moment. And I think Randy's having a really good year within the character that he's doing as well. And so I know it's not for a lot of people, and I know a lot of people have really crapped on it, but I'm still quite intrigued. I'm enjoying it.
Troy, this is the third show we've done, and I always like to treat my guests well. And I don't want to start off 2021 on a bad vibe, bro, but I got to hit you with this.
Hot garbage.
Oh, I've missed hearing that.
I'm just saying, I can't get into this. I can't. And it's almost like they went, wait a minute, there's no fans? Can we do cinematic stuff? We can? Let's burn people up. I don't know. It just feels...
It's meant to be leading to a Firefly Funhouse match, isn't it?
Supposedly at the Rumble, yeah. Which
What
I'm
Dave
happy
Davis
with.
said this morning.
The first one was good, like the one of Cena and just that breakdown of his character. Let's have the same thing with Randy and call him out on all of his stuff over the last 15 years or whatever. If it leads to that, if it leads to another Firefly Funhouse match where we get an absolute character dissection of Randy, then I'm all for it.
The only difference is Randy's coming back.
Well, yeah.
So it worked. The reason it worked so well with Cena was because he wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually a good point, because like
Thought that.
John can poke fun at himself, and he always does, and I love that about him. He can poke fun at himself because he knows that, that's how you get over, and it's how you get the fans on your side to a certain extent, and it's smart, and he's a funny guy. But he could do all that and then go away. But whatever Randy does, he's coming back the next night. So will they go that far? I mean, that's a great point, dude. But I can envision them like the Randy in his original gear, and then he's the Randy in Evolution. He's Randy in a suit. I mean, I guess I could see all that happening.
They'll probably have the news reporter thing, won't they?
Oh, gosh,
yeah.
RNN.
Yeah.
Let's see. How long before Charlotte and Asuka start falling apart?
Soon, hopefully.
Anytime now.
Anytime now.
Well,
Yesterday.
they started it last week, didn't they? Like how insincere was Charlotte about everything?
It's like just thinking that Charlotte's not going to turn on her is like thinking that Kevin Owens is not going to turn on his best friend of the moment, because he's going to. Like, come on.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah. So
this frustrates. I remember when Charlotte came back the other week and was just like, oh, really? Again? Like, this was Lana's spot, and she's just been poo-pooed off so Charlotte can come back and have a moment in the spotlight and add another tick or accomplishment to the list. Like, Asuka's better than this. Asuka doesn't need to be stuck in the women's tag team division, which, no offense to any of the women on the roster in the division, but the women's tag team division is a joke. Like, you've split up arguably, not necessarily technically your best tag team, but your most natural heel tag team in the Iconics. Then you split up Bayley and Sasha, and it's just there's no tag teams there for a start. You've got someone that was on an absolute tear-up streak in NXT as women's champion and didn't even lose it, relinquished it, and came up to the main roster, came over to Raw, and you've done nothing with her. You had Charlotte beat her for a start. She was the first person to beat her when she came over, and now she's just been stuck in tag team stuff when she's better than that. And it's the same with Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler's better than tag team stuff, and that's all she's been doing for months. So the sooner Charlotte turns on Asuka, the better, because hopefully they'll put the tag team belts on someone else, and Asuka starts to get a decent run, and she gets that win back over Charlotte that never should have happened.
Agreed.
And they're both so good. Asuka is so good, and it's and look, we've heard conflicting stories over the years about what are they really making me do versus what am I going along with. So, are they just encouraging Asuka to turn the volume up, or are they telling her you're gonna have to turn the volume up? Because she's become a cartoon character, and I love her, but and I know she did some of this stuff before she ever got to that company. I get it, but it's just when she's yelling in Japanese and she's screaming and she's dancing, and I'm just like, I'm not in for this. I just if it feels like the Saturday morning WWF cartoon to me. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. If you want people jumping up and down and being hokey and stupid, then you've got Otis on your roster. But don't do it to someone like Asuka. Do you know what I mean? There's other people that can fill that comedic role where they're jumping about and being stupid and this, that, and the other. Asuka is not that person.
I agree with that. Shannon talking about in the same vein here, bring the women's tag team, talking about titles, I assume, to NXT.
Yes.
What about NXT Women's Tag Team Championships? Here's the question: Do you trust them to get it right, though? I mean, you know what I mean? Because NXT is not the same company today it was 12 months ago. Let's be honest.
Well,
that's
not the best women's division.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm just, I don't know. Again,
NXT would do a better job of making me take the women's tag team title seriously than Raw or SmackDown have. And the thing is, the women's tag team titles aren't exclusive to a brand. They're meant to be across all three brands. When was the last time you saw them on NXT?
God,
Bayley
Sasha and
earlier in the year.
Bayley, yeah.
And when was that?
That was, oh god, good question. Much earlier in the year. Like,
And we still had fans in the buildings, right?
Yeah. So the better part of a
Yeah.
year ago was the last time they were seen on NXT. It's just, it's a joke. Like, I was excited.
to Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez.
Yeah.
They're already a team. They're already a good team.
Yeah. I was excited when they announced the women's tag team championships. I thought, okay, this is cool. This is going to give lots of talent a chance to band together. They can start to form some tag teams. You can get some more screen time for people. And they've done nothing. Or they've gone backwards with it. They've split up most of the women's tag teams that they had. Then they formed some weird alliances like Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans. Why are you teaming them up as a heel tag team? Peyton Royce was already in a perfectly good heel tag team. What are you doing? It's just nonsense.
Yeah, and it's I don't get that either. And the word alliance is the best word because they don't do tag teams and they do alliances. That's a great way to put it. They do partnerships.
Yeah.
It's just not tag teams. And yeah, I mean, that's a whole other podcast, man, because it's the truth. The way they undervalue the tag team division. Brian, you've been hitting on all cylinders today, my friend. The women's division will get better again when Becky returns. I think it'd be a far sight better than if we were waiting on Charlotte to return to save it, because people are going to turn on her in 10 minutes.
Yep.
And when she goes on a streak of never losing a match again, people are never going to forget. And it'll be like, oh, we hate her. And I'm like, 6 months ago, you couldn't wait till she come back. Now you hate her because of the way she's being booked. So
yeah.
I think the problem is that they're reluctant to make any like new stars. They're relying too much on that. So yeah, it will be great when Becky comes back, but at the same time, that's another person who they could have been making a star that's going to be stifled because they brought back the big star. Yeah. And they've, as you said, they've had 6 months where Charlotte's not been on TV. They were starting to build Lana, and then Spot literally just vanished to Charlotte. So it's gonna be the same situation until they realize, oh, we need to actually like build people here.
That's the disappointing thing, is that yes, it will be exciting when Becky returns to TV. Becky's got star power and is over like Rover. But the fact that people are reliant on her coming back to save the women's division shows just how much of a bad job has been done in building up anyone else as part of that division.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Becky is good. Becky's so good. I said this about Asuka, but Becky is... They miss her if for no other reason than because she will make other people better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think they're missing a veteran. I'm sure Asuka, whoever works with Asuka is loving it. Obviously, I wonder how much the language barrier gets in the way with Asuka at times, but with Becky, you don't have to worry about that. So it's like, I do think they're missing her. And I honestly, when Becky's career is done, hopefully not for quite a while, if you don't have Becky backstage running the women's division, you're out of your mind, because she's the one to do it, man. I mean, just from character to promo to in-ring work. I mean, I just think it's
ticks all the boxes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Criminal not to have her in a position like that.
Obviously, yeah. Elvis Martinez says, who is betting on Lana winning the Royal Rumble later this month? Elvis always hits me with Happy Lana Day. Get ready for this.
Final four. Maybe.
Get ready for this. Hang on.
Hot garbage.
I didn't want to cut you off, but I don't dislike her as a talent. I've said this for a year. I don't dislike her as a talent. I just don't know on what planet does anyone in that company think, oh man, this looks good. You guys happy? She looks great, doesn't she? We're doing great. High fives, guys. Terrible. I can't even predict. Yeah. I stopped trying to predict it a month ago because I'm like, all right, I can't do this anymore. It's hurting my head. What's the plan? What do you think? Is there one? Or are they just flying by the seat of their pants?
Know.
You mean for Lana?
Yes.
Well, the whole thing was to make her like a big baby face, wasn't it? And she was finally starting to like get sympathy with the whole being bullied thing, and then they just replaced it with Charlotte. And it's like, well, why should I care if you don't care?
Yeah. Exactly.
Like that's the crux of it. Why should I give a damn about Lana if you don't?
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
I can see her in the final four, possibly. not winning it, but having that whole she's just held on by the skin of her teeth for an hour.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they did the whole 28 and 29 eliminate each other and she's number 30 and it comes out and wins it that way.
Oh, please no.
I honestly,
please
at this
no.
point, I wouldn't be surprised.
Timothy with a good one. Can you imagine Becky in AEW? Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Okay.
Yes.
Becky does not, I know who she's dating, but Becky does not feel like a WWE lifer to me. And maybe I'm dead wrong. She's world traveled. She did this for a long time before she ever got there. I mean, no, dude, I can totally. And that company needs somebody. They need, Kelly Klein. They need a Becky Lynch. They need Serena Deeb is there, right? But they need somebody to take hold of that thing and backstage and say, look, it's yours. Go. And, they really need that, I think.
Yeah.
Can I just pick up on something that someone's dropped in the comments that I've been saying for time? Shane said it's time for WWE to push Ruby Riott. 1000%. Yeah. I've always been a big Ruby Riott fan. When it comes to like wrestlers that have a completely different look and really, really stand out, she's absolutely there. Like a hair color, the tattoos, like everything. And just the whole gimmick around the Riot Squad and her just being like her own and it's her against the world and that punk rock attitude. And Shotzi Blackheart reminds me a lot of that as well. How they've not done more with Ruby Riott since she got called up is absolutely criminal. Like it really, really aggravates me. And she's been due a push for a long, long time.
What do you think, Jay? She is definitely different, and she's not the typical.
She's brilliant.
I mean,
really like Ruby Riott. Going back to the women's tag titles, got the Riot Squad right there. They had the prime opportunity to have Charlotte turn and Asuka and give it to like an actual team.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have like the Riot Squad as like touring champions, go to NXT, go to Raw, SmackDown, then it elevates them, it elevates the people the wrestling, and it elevates the belts, and it's job done.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I and listen, the issues that we have and that a lot of other writers and podcasters and fans, everyday fans have with that company is that just like the men, they don't know how to handle the women either. I mean, I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. And you've got, and I'm going to kick myself for doing this, but I'm blanking on her name, sitting in NXT, who talk about the punk rock motif, got the spikes. What's that?
Shotzi Blackheart.
Not Shotzi, but got the spikes, the black lipstick, worked Charlotte and Charlotte beat her because that was a great idea.
Rhea
Ripley.
That's it.
Yeah.
And again, apologies to Rhea. My God in heaven, I blanked on her name. Rhea's a star.
Yeah.
And you could turn off the show with that. Rhea is a star because she is.
Never have lost at Mania this year.
Never. Charisma by the truckload.
That was their opportunity to like basically have like a ready-made star right there. If she had the retained against Charlotte.
And forget women. Men in that company wish they had charisma like Ripley does. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't get it. She's ready right now. She's ready made for this. She's, and then you feed her to Charlotte, and Charlotte, come on. You know what I mean? Like, Elvis says Cameron Grimes to win the Royal Rumble.
Hold up. If you're going to say his name, you say it properly, no?
You mean
Cameron Grimes.
And you gentlemen are from across the pond, obviously, so you may not have the twang, but it's Cameron Grimes. So
Cameron Grimes.
There you go. It's not bad.
I'm saving my voice today. Normally I do a big one on NXT.
Listen, Jay, it's all good because Cameron he won't be here for much longer today because
I'm going to the moon.
I just look for excuses to put the sound bites up. I'm just here to put up sound bites, and then I say goodbye, folks. See you next week. So I can't help.
I wouldn't be mad if he's showing up in the Rumble though.
No, I wouldn't.
I love him.
Think that'd be awesome.
He's brilliant.
Really
Cameron Grimes. I can't do it. I can't do it. Cameron Grimes. I can't help it.
fun.
Cameron Grimes. John Silver. Dude, it's the same sort of,
Yeah,
look at me. All right, I got this. And then it's like the bell rings and you're like, what happened?
yeah.
So good, man. We're getting ready to take it home here, kids. We're going to hit a couple more and then we're going to let these gentlemen get on with their day. It's still fairly early where I'm at, but where they are, it's not. Twilight's upon them. So there you go.
It's coming up to dinner time.
There you go. See, lunchtime for me over here. Victor With, I really think Tessa Blanchard will be a surprise interest in the Rumble. She says, listen, here's my take before you guys give me yours. It's just do something. I'm tired of this. I've been answering the Tessa question or not answering it for a year. What it feels like a year now. For God's sake, what is it? Crap or get off the pot. For goodness, sign something somewhere. Get to a company. Is she WWE bound? Is that a foregone conclusion?
I don't. She comes with a lot of baggage, doesn't she?
Oh yeah.
And I think it's a gamble. Whoever she signs with. I don't know. I want to say AEW, but they've also said they expressed that they weren't necessarily looking at her like only a month or so ago. So I don't know.
I think with the way she left Impact as well and their relationship with Impact, that might be problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she did great things in WWE. She's pretty much exactly what they'd be looking for.
And I think they're waiting to say the words Flair versus Blanchard. I think they're waiting to say that.
Yeah.
But Daddy Dearest is in AEW, so I don't know.
Tully said the other day he thinks he's blacklisted from WWE, so that might be another thing that's stopping her from getting signed.
Well, listen, none of us were there, obviously, but all the women who came out and spoke up about specific incidents where they heard things she said overseas. I mean, for I am anyway. I'm sorry, but one woman saying it's one thing. A litany of women coming out and saying, no, this, trust me, I heard it. She's bad news.
It's no smoke without fire.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody deserves a second chance. My God. I mean, how many people wouldn't be in our lives right now if they didn't accept us for who we are? But there's a difference between that and, oh man, what a terrible thing to believe and to live and to say to somebody. I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't know how you come back from that.
Yeah, well, the woman, she said that stuff too. Said they buried the hatchet, didn't she? Which at least he's apologized, I guess, but he still shouldn't have said it in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of like same thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it? She kind of reminds me of Randy Orton a bit. She's immensely talented, but her attitude's like garbage.
She gets in her own way.
Yeah.
She'll probably give her like 5, 6, maybe 10 years, and she'll probably figure that out like Randy did, and then become the star that she should have become like now.
Yeah.
One of the guys with HVW, the company I work with here in North Carolina, has worked WWE shows several different times. He's been extra. He's worked dark matches, and he's been in the locker room. And he's told me before that Randy's in the back in a steel chair with his feet kicked up, reading a book, playing a video game. He's chill. He's so chill, and he's just got this attitude like, what? Oh, hell, I don't care. Screw it. And that's just how he is, because he's reached that point where it's like, you want to fire me? I don't care. I'll go home. Whatever. So he's probably always been that way, right? But that's one of the reasons why he's got respect, I would think, from the boys, is that they're but to get to that point though is hard. To get to that point where you don't have to worry about, oh God, the boss is coming. What do I say? Randy's like, what is he going to say? Oh, I don't care. I mean, we should all be so lucky. We should all be so lucky. We're going to hit one more and take it home, kids. So what do we got here? We're going to make it a good one. Let's see. Come on, guys. I'll make you famous. Give me something good here, or I'm just going to have to go. Come on now. Give me something good. Somebody's still watching. Give me something good here. Elvis, I'm not going to answer your question because I don't care where he's at.
Yeah, definitely don't care.
No offense to Lars, but remember the conversation we just had about, when you say stuff and live a certain way and run your mouth? things are gonna come back to haunt you. Mark says Royal Rumble predictions.
Ooh.
Mark, we're trying to go. You know how much time that's gonna take? My
I'll
God.
give you a quick prediction.
Do it, Troy.
Bianca Belair, Women's Rumble. Big E or Keith Lee, Men's Rumble. My heart wants Big E.
Really good
My head
call.
says Keith Lee.
What do you got, Jay?
Really good call. Men's, I really want Biggie. Like, really want Biggie. He's one of my
We're
favorite wrestlers.
Big E advocates.
Yeah. But I think with them just winning the Intercontinental title, I don't think that's going to happen. Keith Lee's a really good call. I'd probably go with that myself. Or maybe Sheamus.
Ooh.
And women's, Bianca Belair is a really good prediction, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Shayna Baszler.
For the men, I've got
Cameron Grimes.
and despite who wins the women's, I'm pretty sure Flair will say,
Woo!
there we go. I got the buttons in. I'm good. Gentlemen, thank you for a fun show. Thank you for contributing here today. Don't you guys go anywhere. And I'm going to hang on to you till we go off the air here. But guys, thank you so much for joining the show today. I appreciate you doing the podcast. And I'll be looking forward to talking to you guys very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Just having us. All the best.
Yes, sir. Kids, we're going to take it home here. We want to thank everybody for watching. As always, we try to keep it up tempo. We had a lot of serious stuff to talk about here today. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Apologies for not getting to everyone's comment. We'll be back hopefully to a regular schedule as of next Friday. Thank you, everybody, for giving us your time, attention, and your patronage. We do very much appreciate it, man. We're going to get out of here. Everybody have a great weekend. Happy New Year to you, one and all. And before we sign out here today, we're going to hit you with the closing, and then we're going to wish you happy Friday. All right? Thanks again, kids, for watching. First episode of the new season of the new year. Can't beat it, right? We're out of here, man. See you next time. Tom Clark's Main Event.